This is so weird, Alex. I'm shaking on the inside. The static on the car radio startled us, but we could hear Agent John Assaro's deep, raspy voice. "Alex, did you guys see him? Get a good look? What does Ms. McTiernan think? What's the verdict on our Dr. Squirrel?" I looked across the front seat at Kate. She looked all of her 31 years right now, not quite so confident and assured, a little gray around the gills, the prime witness. She understood the deadly seriousness of the moment perfectly. "I don't think he's Casanova," Kate finally said. She shook her head. "He's not the same physical type. He's thinner, carries himself differently. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it's him, God damn it." She sounded a little disappointed. Kate continued to shake her head. "I'm almost sure he isn't Casanova, Alex. There must be two of them. Two Mr. Squirrels." Her brown eyes were intense as she looked at me. So there were two of them. Were they competing? What the hell was their coast-to-coast game all about? Chapter 64. Small talk, surveillance talk. It was familiar territory for me. Sampson and I had a saying about surveillance back in D.C. They do the crime, we do the time. How much could he make with a successful Beverly Hills medical practice? Ballpark number, Kate, I asked my partner. We were still watching the doctor's private parking lot of Cedars-Sinai. There was nothing to do but eyeball Rudolph's spiffy new BMW and wait, and talk like old friends on a front stoop in D.C. "He probably charges about $150 to a visit. He could gross $500,000 or $600,000 a year. Then there are surgery fees, Alex. That's if he has a conscience about the prices he charges, and we know he doesn't have a conscience." I shook my head in disbelief as I rubbed my palm over my chin. "I have to get back into private practice. Baby needs new shoes." Kate smiled. "You miss them, don't you, Alex? You talk about your kids a lot, Damon and Janny, Poolhead and Velcro." I smiled back. Kate knew my nicknames for the kids by now. "Yeah, I do. They're my babies, my little pals." Kate laughed some more. I liked to make her laugh. I thought of the bittersweet story she'd told me about her sisters, especially her twin, Kristen. Laughter is good medicine. The black BMW coupe just sat there, shining brightly and expensively in the California sunlight. Surveillance sucks, I thought. No matter where you have to do it, even in sunny L.A. Kyle Craig had gotten me a lot of rope here in Los Angeles, certainly much more than I'd had in the South. He'd gotten rope for Kate, too. There was something in it for him, though. The old quid pro quo. Kyle wanted me to interview the gentleman caller once he was caught, and he expected me to report everything to him. I suspected that Kyle himself hoped to bag Casanova. "Do you really think the two of them are competing?" Kate asked me after a while. "It makes psychological sense out of some things for me," I told her. "They might feel a need to one-up each other. The gentleman's diaries could be his way of saying, 'See, I'm better than you. I'm more famous.' Anyway, I haven't decided yet. Sharing their exploits is probably more for thrill purposes than intimacy, though. They both like to get turned on." Kate stared into my eyes. "Alex, doesn't it make you feel creepy as hell trying to figure this out?" I smiled. "That's why I want to catch Butthead and Beavis, so the creepiness will finally stop." Kate and I waited at the hospital until Rudolph finally reappeared. It was nearly 2 in the afternoon. He drove straight to his office on North Bedford, west of Rodeo Drive. Rudolph saw patients there, mostly women patients. Dr. Rudolph was a plastic surgeon. As such, he could create and sculpt. Women depended on him, and his patients all chose him. We followed Rudolph home at around 7. $500,000 or $600,000 a year, I was thinking. It was more than I could make in a decade. Was it the money he needed to be the gentleman caller? Was Casanova wealthy too? Was he a doctor also? Was that how they committed their perfect crimes? These questions were rolling around in my head. I fingered an index card in my trouser pocket. I had begun to keep a short list on both Casanova and the gentleman. I would add or subtract what I considered key attributes to the profile. I carried the card with me at all times. Casanova, collector, harem, artist, organized. Different masks, to represent moods or personas. Doctor, claims to love victims, gaining a taste for violence, knows about me. Competing with Gary Sonergy? Competing with the L.A. gentleman? Gentleman. Gives out flowers. Sexual? Extremely violent and dangerous. Takes beautiful young women of all types. Extremely organized. Not artistic in terms of his killing. Doctor. Cold and impersonal as a killer. A butcher. Craves recognition and fame. Possibly wealthy. Penthouse apartment. Graduated Duke Medical School 1986. Raised in North Carolina. I thought some more about the connection between Rudolph and Casanova as Kate and I twiddled our thumbs outside the apartment. A relevant psychological condition had occurred to me. It was called twinning, and it could be a key. Twinning just might explain the bizarre relationship between the monsters. Twinning was caused by an urge to bond, usually between two lonely people. Once they twin, the two become a whole. They become dependent on each other, often obsessively so. Sometimes the twins become highly competitive. Twinning was like an addiction to couple, to belong to a secret club. Just two people and no passwords. In its negative form, it was the fusing of two people for their own individual needs, which weren't mutually healthy. I ran it by Kate. She was a twin, too. Quite often there's a dominant figure in a twinning relationship, I said. Was that true of you and your sister? I probably was with Kristen, Kate said. I got the good grades in school. I was a little pushy sometimes. She even called me Push in high school. Worse names than that, too. The dominant twin can act in a male role model behavior structure, I said to Kate. The two of us were talking doctor to doctor. The dominant figure might not be the more skillful at manipulation, though. As you can imagine, I've read a little about the phenomenon, Kate said, and smiled. Twinning creates a uniquely powerful structure within which the bonded pair can operate in complex ways. Something like that? That's correct, Dr. McTiernan. In the case of Casanova and the gentleman, each would have his own bodyguard cum supportive person. That could be why they achieve so well. Perfect crimes. They each have a built-in and very effective emotional support system. The question ringing loudly in my mind was, how had they originally met? Was it at Duke? Had Casanova been a student there, too? It made some sense. It also reminded me of the Leopold Loeb case in Chicago. Two very smart boys, special boys, committing forbidden acts together, sharing evil thoughts and dirty secrets because they were lonely and had no one else to talk to. Twinning at its most destructive. Was that the beginning of the solution to this puzzle, I wondered? Were the gentleman and Casanova twinning? Were they actually working together? What was their nasty little game all about? What game were they playing? Let's go smash in his picture windows with a tire iron, Kate said. She was feeling it, too. We were both ready to rumble. We wanted to take down this grown-up Leopold and Loeb. Chapter 65. 8 o'clock came and went on the surveillance watch. Maybe Dr. Will Randolph wasn't the gentleman caller. The Los Angeles Times reporter Beth Lieberman could have been wrong. There was no way to ask her about it now. Kate and I had been gabbing about the Lakers without Magic Johnson and Kareem, about Aaron Neville's latest album, Hillary and Bill Clinton's life together, the merits of Johns Hopkins versus University of North Carolina Medical School. Strange sparks were still flying between us. I'd had some unofficial therapy sessions with Kate McTiernan, and I had hypnotized her once. I also understood that I was afraid of any kind of fire starting between us. What was wrong with me? It was time to start my life again, to get over the loss of my wife Maria. I thought I had something good with a woman named Jessie Flanagan, but she had left an emptiness in me that I could barely get over. Kate and I finally began to cover subjects a little closer to the heart. She asked why I was shying away from relationships. Because my wife had died, because my last relationship had imploded, because of my 2 kids. I asked her why she was wary of meaningful relationships. She was afraid she was going to die of ovarian or breast cancer like her sisters. She was afraid her lovers might die or leave her, that she would keep on losing people. "We're quite a pair." I finally shook my head and smiled. "Maybe we're both terrified of losing someone again," Kate said. "Maybe it's better to love and lose than be afraid." Before we could really get into that thorny subject, Dr. Will Rudolph finally reappeared. I looked at the time on the dashboard clock. It was 10:20. Rudolph was decked out in all black party clothes, form-fitting blazer, turtleneck, clinging slacks, snazzy cowboy boots. He got into a white Range Rover this time instead of the BMW sedan. He looked freshly showered, probably had taken a nap. I envied him that. "Black on black for the good doctor," Kate said with a tight smile. "Dressed to kill." "Maybe he has a dinner date," I said. "Now there's a scary idea. He sups with the women, then kills them." That could get him inside their apartments at least. What a terrible creep. 2 unbelievable creeps on the loose. I started up our car and we followed Rudolph. I didn't see any FBI coverage, but I was sure they were there. The Bureau still hadn't brought in the LAPD on this. It was a dangerous game, but not an unusual one for the FBI. They considered themselves the best policemen for any job and the ultimate authority. They had decided this was an interstate crime spree, so it was theirs to solve. Somebody at the Bureau had a hard-on for this case. "Vampires always hunt at night, huh?" Kate said as we headed south through L.A. "That's what this feels like, Alex. Bram Stoker's The Gentleman Caller, a real-life horror story." I knew what Kate was feeling. I felt it too. He is a monster, only he's created himself. So is Casanova. It's another similarity they share. Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, they wrote only about human monsters roaming the earth. Now we have sickos living out their elaborate fantasies. What a country. "Love it or leave it, bub," Kate said with a drawl and a wink. I had done enough surveillance early in my career to get reasonably good at it. I figured I'd earned a graduate degree in tracking during the Sonagy Murphy manhunt. So far, I'd noticed that the West Coast FBI was good, too. Agents Asaro and Cosgrove checked in on the radio as soon as we started to move again. They were in charge of the tracking unit on Will Rudolph. We still didn't know if he was the gentleman. We had no proof. We couldn't move on Dr. Rudolph yet. We followed the Range Rover west through Los Angeles. Rudolph finally turned onto Sunset Drive and took it all the way to the Pacific Coast Highway. Then he headed north on U.S. Highway 1. I noticed that he was careful to keep the Range Rover at the speed limit inside L.A., but once he hit the open road, he started to fly. "Where the heck is he going?" "My heart's in my throat," Kate finally admitted. "We'll be okay. It seems scary chasing him at night," I said. It did feel as if we were alone with him. Where the hell was he going? Was he hunting? If his pattern held, he was due for another killing soon. He had to be in heat. It turned out to be a very long ride. We watched the stars brighten the coastal California night. 6 hours later, we were still tacking on Highway 1. The Range Rover finally pulled off at a quaint wooden signpost that read Big Sur State Park, among other things. As if to validate that we were really in Big Sur, we passed an antique van with a bumper sticker, "Visualize Industrial Collapse." "Visualize Dr. Will Rudolph having a massive stroke," Kate growled softly. I checked my watch as we left the main highway. It's past 3, getting late for him to get into any serious trouble tonight. I hoped that was the case. If there was ever any doubt, this may prove he's a blood-sucking vampire, Kate muttered. Her arms were crossed tightly across her chest and had been for most of the long ride.